Hello, friends. I hope you're having a great day today. My name is Daniela, and I'd like to welcome you to Visionary Thoughts. This is a podcast where you can come and hang out, feel inspired, and envision a life full of joy and happiness. And guess what? It all starts in the mind. Thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful day. Currently in Austin, Texas, it is a very gloomy and cold and wet day, so I'm definitely excited to bring you some cozy vibes today. And thank you to everybody that's been supporting me so far. I'm really so thankful and grateful for this platform and this podcast and to be able to share my wisdom and my knowledge with you all. For today, we have a very exciting and important episode all about perspective. And so, everything we want to create and every dream we want to see come to life, it all begins with a single thought, a belief, and a vision. And I am your host, Daniela. And as always, I am so happy that you are here. Last week, we talked about the power of letting go and how when we release what is no longer serving us, we can create a space for growth, progress, and peace. And if you haven't tuned into last week's episode, I definitely recommend it before listening to this one because when it comes down to it, letting go really is an act of courage, and shifting our mindset is a courageous act of empowerment. And I go deeper into this concept of letting go in last week's episode, so I definitely recommend that. But anyways, to continue building on that concept today, we are discussing how perspective shapes how we see the world and how we interact with it. Perspective is way more than just a way of thinking. Think of it as a lens through which we experience life. And with this lens, we are able to see things and perceive things differently. And our perspective is shaped by our past experiences, habits, beliefs, and the internal dialogue that we have with us. Our perspective is shaped by our past experiences, habits, beliefs, and the internal dialogue that we have with ourselves. And I think that this is something that is very important because I believe that a shift in perspective is powerful enough to change the course of your life. And you can take a moment of heartbreak or heartache or deception or loss or sadness and turn it into a stepping stone onto which you can move forward from. And it can take failure and turn it into a lesson. And I definitely believe this at my core because it happened to me and it can happen to you too, because when we shift our perspective, we can actually allow transformation to happen. But before we really dive into it, as always, I want to start with a gentle reminder to open your heart and your mind to the message that I'm sharing with you today, because when we open our hearts and our minds to allow a new source of information to expand our thinking, this is actually where transformation happens. And in case you haven't heard it lately, you are worthy of everything good in this life and you deserve joy, and you are definitely capable of changing the course of your life. And I believe that it starts with a shift in perspective. I also hope that you feel peace and you feel joy, and I know that it is definitely possible by changing and evolving our perspective. One of the most asked questions in the world is, why do bad things happen to good people? I know that because I've asked myself that question plenty of times. There have been moments in my life where I put every ounce of effort into something and I've kept a positive attitude and I've acted with faith and hope that everything would just turn out in my favor. I mean, how many of us have done that before, but only to fall short in the moment? And we feel that despite all of our best effort, it just wasn't enough. And in those times, I have felt so discouraged and the self doubt would creep in. It's in that moment where you start to wonder, am I even good enough? Or why am I wasting my time? Those kinds of doubts can be paralyzing to you. Like, it can actually be scary because it might discourage you from even trying again or even having hope for another situation in the future. But let me tell you one thing. Here's one thing that I definitely have learned throughout the course of my life is that when we go through trials that shake us to our core and we give it our all, but we still fall short, I believe that we have an opportunity. Because in that moment when you're feeling discouragement or angst or stress, we have an opportunity to always ask ourselves, how will I let this define me? I always say that in life, we only have control over a limited amount of things. We do not have control over what happens to us. We do not have control over how people treat us, how they talk to us. We have no control over like other people and the things that happen to us. But what we do have control of is ourselves. We have control over our attitude, our effort, our perspective, and how we react to things and how we act according to what's happened to us. And in this moment, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to decide, although the situation or the experience that happened to us wasn't good or it wasn't pleasant or it maybe brought us back a little bit, we can take this opportunity to truly view it in a different way and a moment to decide, how will we let this situation define us? Or if we will even let this situation define us, because there are moments in life, maybe something super terrible happened and you just don't know how to react. And these are the moments where transformation takes place, because I am an avid believer that every misfortune or every discouraging experience that happens to us is an opportunity for us to grow, because God isn't just preparing the blessings for you. He's preparing you for the blessings. And this is something that I can actually really testify to, because God doesn't really care about us accomplishing a certain thing or getting to a certain level. Like, He wants to work on us as we live our life and are evolving in this life and we're learning and we're growing. Like, the things, the experiences that we have are nothing compared to how we come out of them and what kind of person we become based on what happens to us. The blessings, they are already there, waiting for you to step into them. But first, you are being shaped and transformed and strengthened to make sure that you are ready to really embrace those blessings. So no, bad things do not happen to good people, because they happen with a purpose and they happen for growth for you, because you are being strengthened. You are the one that is being tested. And how will you let these tests define you? Think about it. Everything in life, everything that happens, when we have a shift in perspective, we think that everything in life is either a blessing or a lesson. And so the way we perceive challenges impacts our emotional and spiritual well-being. And you know what? Here is the secret. Our perspective is one of the few things that we have control over, because we can change our perspective and evolve it to handle things better and to really preserve our own peace as well. For example, you can have two people go through the exact same experience and walk away with completely different outlooks, and the only thing that is different between those two people is perspective. Let's just say you have two coworkers that were hired on the same day, and unfortunately, they both get laid off on the exact same day. And one person immediately thinks that this is the worst day of their life. Like, why would this happen to me? How am I going to survive? How am I going to provide for my family? Like, their world is completely shaken. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you have a coworker that takes a different approach and takes a deep breath and maybe is thinking to themselves, like, maybe this is the perfect opportunity for me to pivot and to go after something that I truly love and that maybe is a better career path. You have the same situation, two different people with two different mindsets, and in the end, they will have two different outcomes. Because you know what? Perspective is powerful, and your perspective has brought you all the way up to this moment where you are right now. And so, perspective will take these two individuals that went through the exact same experience and it will take them to different places just because perspective. And perspective is so powerful. And so, with this being said, why do we default to the worst case scenarios whenever something goes wrong? Like, why do we assume failure before we even try? Like, I know that I've been in many situations before where I've automatically assumed the worst, or I've automatically let self-doubt come into my brain and completely affect my energy when I'm trying to pursue something or when I'm trying to even attempt something. And I wondered this so much myself that I began to research, and what my research has led me to is because of human nature. It is human nature and it is a survival instinct to automatically think the worst and prepare for the worst case scenario so that way we are prepared. And so it is in our human nature to negatively automatically think bad or think negatively about a situation because we are wired for survival. You know, if you take it all the way back to our ancestors, they did not have time to overthink. Today, we have the luxury and the time to overthink. Back then, our ancestors, they did not have time to overthink. They needed to act in the moment or else it wouldn't ensure their survival. And so in those times, your first instinct was very powerful and useful and could save your life. But unfortunately, in our modern world, where we are meant to live and to thrive and to experience life, like this kind of thinking sets us back because we're not trying to just survive. We are trying to live. And life is not meant to be endured. It is meant to be lived, and you are meant to find joy. And so, this thought pattern that has been wired in our brain does not serve us because we are no longer hunting and gathering for our food or for survival. Like, we are very comfortable living in homes between four walls with Wi-Fi, with internet, with water at our disposal, with all of these luxuries that our ancestors could not even think about. You know, they had to hunt and ration their water, but we don't have to do that. And so when you put that into perspective and you start to think about those things, you start to think about your thought patterns and challenge them, this is where you go through a mindset shift. And it's almost like your perspective and your world and your mind, they all expand. We believe that by expecting the worst, we are protecting ourselves from disappointment. And it's that little voice in our head that says that if I expect nothing, then I can't get hurt. And I know that there is a lot of social media posts and shows and influencers and celebrities promote this kind of thinking where you would rather not get your hopes up and protect yourselves from disappointment. But what you're actually doing is expecting the worst. And I'm here to tell you the truth that expecting the worst does not protect us. It actually works against us because it robs us of joy and it shrinks our world before we even step into it. And it's kind of unfair for you because you deserve to be happy and you deserve to have joy and you deserve to be excited and you deserve to have hope. You know, being hopeless, I think, is one of the worst, the saddest things that can happen to a human because if you lose all hope, then at that point, what can you even look forward to? One of my favorite movies of all time is Crazy Rich Asians. And I love that movie because it is so cute and it is one of my favorites. And if you've seen this movie, then you can recall a scene at the beginning of the movie where Rachel, who is a professor, is teaching a class on game theory. And she plays against one of her students in this game of poker, I think, and she wins, right? So then she says this quote that I think about pretty often, and she says, Curtis was playing not to win. He was playing not to lose. And so, how many of us are living life like that? Like, we immediately have the fear of losing that we don't even think about winning. This is something that I think really shifted my perspective. And I try to get something deep and a lesson from any movie that I try to watch. And so, how many of us live our life so scared to lose that we don't even think about the concept of winning? And I'm going to share a story that hit home for me when I was a competitive dancer. So I have been dancing my whole life ever since I was a little girl, all the way up to some years where I formed my own dance team at university. And so I remember this specific instance in my life. I was participating in a dance competition and I had a solo for the very first time. And if you're not familiar with dance, having a solo is really meaningful to some dancers. It definitely was one of my goals to have a solo because I'm on the stage by myself. I have all of this space to myself. And I remember stepping onto the stage for my solo and I gave it my all. I tried my best and I did not win. And I was truly devastated. You know, as a little girl, I wanted to win. I saw other girls my age walk with those beautiful golden trophies off of the stage and hearing their name and the audience applauding for them and their accomplishment. Like, I wanted that feeling. And so when I went home that night, I had a conversation with my dad, and he is someone that has given me a lot of really good advice throughout the course of my life. And he gave me some simple but also life-changing advice. And I told him that I want to win. Like, I want to walk away with a golden trophy. I want to hear my name on stage and I want to hear the applause for me. My dad simply said, like, okay, well, if you want to win, you have to try. You have to try again. You have to work hard and you can't give up. Like, if this is something that you truly want, you have to do the work and you have to try again and never give up, and every single practice perform like you want to win. And so this is something that I really internalized because I really wanted to win. I literally took that to heart and I practiced everywhere. I was practicing at home, in the car, at school. I remember even sitting in my class in elementary school and tracing my choreography with my fingers on my desk. Like, this was all I could think about and it was all I wanted. And every practice that I showed up to, I really tried my best to perform and really to get in the mindset of winning. You know, in this moment, I was actively taking the decision each and every day, each and every practice, to have an attitude of winning. And so, when the next competition season came, I felt like I was ready. I was ready to step on that stage, give it my all. When I got to the stage a whole nother year later, as soon as I heard the music go off, I was ready to perform. I was shining, I was smiling, I was giving it my all. And then the unthinkable happened. My shoe slipped off of my foot and flung all the way across the stage into where the audience was sitting. And I think I had a split second to decide if I should stop my dance and go and get my shoe from the audience, or do I keep going? Before I even had time to think about that, without hesitation, I continued to dance like nothing happened. I smiled, I performed, and I kept going like if I was still wearing my shoe. And you know what? In that moment, I was so proud of myself because I loved to dance so much that I didn't even let my shoe flinging off my foot into the audience stop me from what I love to do. When I walked off the stage, I was kind of devastated that I had this wardrobe malfunction, but I immediately was met with praise and hugs, and everybody was really proud of my courageous act to continue dancing, and the applause was loud and it was roaring and it was such a wonderful feeling. So when it was time for the awards ceremony, I was sitting down in my seat. I was being realistic, I knew that I wanted to win and I had the attitude of winning still. Like I still hope for a win. When they moved on to my category where I had my solo and my age division, I felt so ecstatic whenever they called up my name to come on stage and accept an award for second place. I was so happy and I was so ecstatic because out of all of the dancers in my age category in the solo division, I got second place and I walked away a winner because I already felt the feeling of winning in my mind. In that moment, I really knew that my hard work from the whole time prior to that, prior to the competition, that the hard work that I put in really paid off. Every single day that I showed up to dance practice ready to perform like a winner really paid off because you know what happened? I had rewired my brain and my perspective had shifted and my world expanded. And so this win gave me a lot of confidence to continue to pursue even if the unthinkable happens in those moments. I've said this many times before. We don't always have control over what happens to us, but we do have control over how we respond. I can say that that experience shifted the course of my life because this is where I knew that if I put my mind to it and if I truly align with what I want, then no matter what happens, it can be mine and I can have hope that it will. And I'm here to tell you that if you can set your mind to anything and truly believe with your whole heart, despite outside obstacles, it can still be yours. And it all depends on how you internalize these things that happen and how you react to them. And this is why a shift in perspective can truly be life-changing. Realistically speaking, it does not happen overnight. A shift in perspective can truly be life-changing, but I will say that it does not happen overnight. You can take one small step in the moment. You can take the positive approach and the positive step in the moment, but it is a continuous daily choice that you have to make. It's a commitment to try and shift your perspective because every single day you have an opportunity to shape your mindset and rewrite your story. And let's be honest, life is going to be hard either way. Life is going to be hard whether you change your thinking or not. There is always going to be challenges. If you are living and breathing on planet Earth, your life is going to have obstacles and you are going to go through challenges. And so my thinking is, why not face those challenges on the way to where you want to be? Because let's face it, you only have one life and you only get this opportunity right here, right now. And we will only ever live in the present moment. And if you can actually control and be present in the present moment, you can have the power to change the day, to change your life, because we live our lives according to what we do. I want to just invite you to actually try and challenge your perspective. A step in the right direction will take you to the right destination, but this is a constant choice, and continuing to make that choice over and over again every single time you get, because life is hard and you are going to be challenged no matter what, whether you are in pursuit of your goals or not. So my question is, why not face those challenges on the way to where you want to be and who you want to become? You only get one chance and opportunity here, and I want to help you reach that maximum potential. So I am going to leave you with this. Next time you are faced with a challenge, ask yourself, what's the best that can happen? At the beginning of your day, when you wake up, ask yourself, what is the best that can happen? Shift your perspective and rewire your brain to choose to win. Don't be fearful of losing, but be excited to win. As I'm wrapping up this episode on perspective, this week I invite you to reflect on a limiting belief that has been holding you back and challenge your thinking. Try and see if you can replace a limiting belief with an empowering belief. If this week you are faced with any kind of opposition, pause and think before you act. Try and challenge your immediate reaction if it's negative. Let's say something unfortunate happens, and instead of getting mad or frustrated or angry, try and see if you can see it in a different way, if you can see it in a different perspective. This is where you are starting to take that step forward and trying to rewire your brain and expanding your perspective. And if you're ready for something a little more interesting and powerful, I invite you for just 1 week to assume that everything is working out in your favor. Just try it for 1 week. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Because the key to a perspective shift is awareness. The more you become aware of your thoughts and your actions, the more you can pinpoint their origins. And in those moments, you have the freedom to choose differently. And when the moment comes, you are already changing the course of your life because your thoughts and your actions create your reality. And so, with your thoughts and with your actions, what kind of world are you building for yourself right now? Because if yesterday looks like today and today looks like tomorrow, what will be different in a year? I invite you to ponder on that this week and record your thoughts and impressions. And as I've mentioned in every single episode before, you can always share your thoughts and impressions with me on social media because I want to hear from you and I would love to hear from you. And again, I want to remind you of your power because this is your life and you have a say, because it is never too early or too late. Exactly where you are in this moment, you are ready and you are capable, and I believe in you because when you change your perspective, you change your life. And I want you to win more than anything. I don't want you to be fearful of losing. I hope that you are excited to win, whatever that may look like for you. As always, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And if this message resonated with you, I would love for you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. I am your host, Daniela, and I thank you for tuning into Visionary Thoughts this week. Join me next week for a new episode of Visionary Thoughts, available on any place where you stream podcasts and available in video format on YouTube and Spotify. Each week, we will focus on using our mind to shape the world around us and try to live a life full of joy and happiness and abundance. You can follow a Visionary Thoughts Pod and Life of Danny on social media for day-to-day updates and more inspiration. And as always, I want to hear from you. You can always send me a message and leave your impressions in the comment section because remember, I am here for you. And I know that when we shift our perspective and when we challenge our thought patterns, we can truly start to see the magic, live the life that we are truly meant to live. And we can do that because we have the power to do so. And it all starts in the mind. And I will see you next time where we will continue to dive deep into these concepts. I hope you keep believing in yourself because together we can make our thoughts visionary thoughts. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day. And